Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today I'm going to talk to you about some different framing options available to frame your deck in. Technology has really come a long way and I'm really excited about it. So if you get something out of this video, don't forget to click that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming to our channel to watch these videos. Where I'm from in the Pacific Northwest, we use a lot of timber in our construction, mostly solid sawn. What solid sawn means is instead of laminating several pieces of material together like they do on the East Coast, we have members that are designed for use as one solid piece of lumber. So instead of using 3 2x10s, we'll use one 4x10 instead. It gives us the strength and the distance we need to create those special loads and span charts and things like that that we have to meet for requirements for building our decks. The most common staple, the one I've used the most, is a product called pressure treated hemlock. And here's a sample of it. And you're looking at it and you're going, what are those marks in that board? Those are called incisions. There's a machine that's called a knurling machine that has all these teeth that knurl the board as it is fed through. And while they're feeding it through, it's also injecting chemicals deeper into the hemlock because it will not take the pressure treated chemicals very well unless they force it into the board somehow. This is one technique. They also make a smooth board, but it has to be treated differently. It won't be run through a knurling machine. It'll be set into like a huge container and pressurized and set to pressure until refusal, which they have these allowances and tolerances that allow you to put so much pressure treatment into a board. And then those chemicals go to refusal, and then they take all that material out, and then they put the next batch in, and they just keep doing that over and over. So this is more like an assembly line type of treatment. And then smooth pressure treated is a different type where it's kind of dunked and pressurized that way versus forcing it through a machine. So anyways, this is a great product. You're gonna get at least, well, we'll say, okay, for starters, they're gonna say, you know, lifetime expectancy on this board could be 20 to 30 years. Depending on how you install it, this board, in my opinion, I've seen it rot in 7 years. If you put multiple layers of this together and don't protect the top, where I come from, the rain's gonna hit this, it's gonna seep in between the cracks, and that's gonna start decaying because it's gonna stay wet all the time. And eventually, you're gonna get a soft spot in the side of this board. I see it all the time. I tear down so many decks, pressure treated decks. You go to my Instagram page, you're gonna see demos where I'll talk about, oh, you know, you shouldn't do this. This falls apart. Don't put this inside concrete. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't leave it exposed. If you're gonna do this, protect it with this, that kind of thing. But we're just talking about the actual materials and how they're used and what they're used for. I'd say that this 2x8 is probably my most common used size as well. On a standard low level deck or anything up to 5 or 6 feet up, depending on beam span, there's a lot that goes into calculating what size of timber you're gonna use. But we're just talking today about the different options you have in today for framing, okay? Pressure treated material is our #1 go-to. We use it all the time, okay? That's probably 99% of what we build with right now is pressure treated hemlock. There are inherent issues with it. It can move, it can swell, it can shrink after you install it. That's been a common problem lately where depending on the size of the joist, as summer comes and the board loses moisture, it will shrink a little bit, even in height. So that's just something you have to deal with. It's lumber, it's wood, it's not man-made, it can't be controlled. The moisture content is difficult to control, all that stuff. So it could shrink at varying rates, okay? Here's a 4x4. This is, like I said, solid sawn. It's incised. We use 4x4, 4x6, 4x8, 10, and 12 all the time in our framing. You can kind of see from this cutaway, you can see how the treatment has gone into the board, but the core is not ever treated. So that's why we have to put end grain solution on every single cut that we make, on every treated deck that we do. Has to be with an end grain solution. We use a product called Q-Tech Extreme to cut and seal all of our end grains with. This is what's available to me in my region. You may not be able to get pressure treated hemlock where you're located, but that's what I have for disposal in my area. So something coming up on the horizon, this is a structural composite lumber. This is exciting because it'll never rot, it'll never decay. You don't have to put any type of protection on it. It'll last as long as your fasteners will. So it has a composite core and an embossed grain on the outside, and I'm not sure what the formulation is. This is a product that's being put out by a company called Owens Corning. Maybe you've heard of them from fiberglass insulation. Well, the reason they're part of this is because there's actually a fiberglass wrap sheath around the composite core before the capstock is produced on it. So it gives it rigidity. This is not a product that we can bend. It's designed to be straight and for span. We've done some testing. They told us it'll span 10 feet. So we put it 10 feet apart and we did some balancing. There's a previous video on this product on our channel. We have not built a full deck out of this yet. So that time will come when technology and opportunity will present itself, and we'll probably build something out of one of these decks. So this is definitely a viable option. It's probably limited in where you can obtain it at the moment, but you can find them on Instagram and just look up Owens Corning and see if there's somebody that can help you find it locally in your area. The spans aren't quite as far as lumber, traditional lumber, but it depends on how high off the ground you're building, what your centers are gonna be, how far apart of the joist, all that stuff. They'll help you calculate all that. So definitely an up and comer in the industry. Now we're gonna get into metals. This is a standard 2-inch by 6-inch aluminum tube. I've actually framed some stuff, done some walls and different framing with this particular product. I've done pergolas out of it. This can also be done for a deck, for a frame. It's probably more costly than anything else I've shown you so far, but it's also kind of a do-it-yourself, engineer it yourself kind of way to get it done. This has been powder coated a special color because it was for a patio cover that we'd built, a shade arbor. This is definitely a wave of the future that I see coming. In the same token, there's steel framing that looks very similar to this. There's a couple different ways. You can buy a manufactured steel frame from different companies. There's a black one that comes out by a company, I think it's called Fortress. They have a system. And the thing I'm not crazy about steel, especially where I live, is that you're gonna be cutting a lot of parts. And every time you cut something, it drops shavings, which will rust, okay? So every time you cut the steel, you gotta be careful where you're cutting because it'll leave rust stains all over your nice concrete or your expensive patio or whatever else is down below, depending on the elevation of the deck. You would really wanna have or need to have a dedicated cut station somewhere maybe on the lawn where you're not cutting over concrete or something like that, because all those shavings are gonna rust and have potential problems. Once you cut it, then you have to seal the end of it. Aluminum, you don't. Aluminum you can cut, and if you don't mind the silver look, that's okay. It's not gonna rust or decay. But with steel, you gotta protect the ends, you gotta repaint everything, and if it's coming down and it's raining, that's gonna be a little bit more maintenance, and maybe have to try to figure out how to dry everything off and paint it before you install it. That's why I'm so hot for aluminum. I've kind of skipped steel and gone straight to aluminum now that there's some systems on the market that are coming or that are here. This is a product called Outdoor. They make many different profiles, but the cool thing about Outdoor is it's so well thought out that it's unilateral. It will connect to itself with bracketry. This is a 2x8. This is their largest member so far. This will span 12 feet, 16 inches on center to create super flat, laser flat surfaces that you can then attach your decking to. You can use it with a flat side up and use this thing called Cortex Driller where you're drilling through the decking and right into the aluminum. You can also use the groove side that'll allow you to put a locking clip in so that you can actually use a groove board and use a clip system that is actually integrated into the joist, not just into the decking, but right into the joist system. It works flat and on edge. So there's 3 sides with grooves and 1 side that's completely flat. So you have options, and then everything attaches together with L brackets and you can adjust the width, the size, slide it this way, that way, and then lock it in with different brackets. So this could be your ledger board on the house, this could be a joist, and then you bring it together like this, you put in your brackets, it all locks together, and it's rock solid, and it doesn't decay, and it lasts, you know, you're gonna get 100 years out of this frame. So we did a deck about a year ago out of really thin materials. So they also make a thinner profile. This is 1.5 inches. They go all the way down to a 1/2 inch profile. So if you have a flat roof that has a slope and you need going from thinner to thicker materials, they got you covered depending on your design and how you want to install it. But we're actually installing a really thin piece of this right on rubber, and then our decking went right on top of this, and it's still all locked together. It worked out really nice. This is a premium system. You're definitely gonna pay more for it than a traditional wood frame, but you can also see the benefits of having this over a standard frame as well. So this is something that I'm gonna be using hot and heavy over the next 15 years. I'm all in with this system, and I think it's gonna be the wave of the future, but we'll see. Stay tuned. In the next 6 months, we should have something coming out in this outdoor framing system. So those are some options for you guys as far as what to frame your deck in. I hope this helps somebody make some decisions on maybe what to choose or why. If you have any questions, leave them below. Please don't forget to click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Share this video, and don't forget to like it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.